Yeah, of course. Good day, and welcome to Economics, Elections, and Equities Explained. Again, my name is Andoy. I'm from First Metro Sec, and of course also from Let's Invest PH. First Metro Sec, we are the stock brokerage arm of the Philippines' best managed bank, Metro Bank, and we happen to be your 2017, 2018, 2020, 2021, and 2022 best stock brokerage firm in the Philippines, the country's most advanced trading platform. And just in case, no, just in case you're not familiar with the things that I've been doing pre-pandemic, I'm pretty much bouncing, from campus to campus, office to office, island to island, and even country to country, talking to Filipinos about anything and everything: saving, investing, budgeting, fintech, and everything in between. But of course, because of the pandemic, we had to adjust. We had to recalibrate things. Businesses had to adjust, employees had to adjust, students had to adjust, and even market educators like me, we had to adjust. So I'm taking advantage of opportunities, one speaking engagement at a time, one Facebook live session at a time, one vlog guesting at a time, one international roadshow at a time, and that's also the reason why we're beefing up First Metro Securities' online content in our YouTube channel, and that's also the reason why I established Let's Invest PH on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. So you guys might want to just subscribe to that YouTube channel. When you talk about the country's economy, when you talk about the Philippines' political landscape, and you talk about ultimately the stock market prognosis, to a certain extent, they're all intertwined. And that's why when you talk about the economy, you can't help but talk about politics and the most recent national elections. And ultimately, how does these things, the developments in these aspects, translate to money making by way of the stock market? So let's begin with economics first, and then elections next, and of course, ultimately, equity. So let's begin with economics. What dragged it down? What supported the market? I say when you talk about the market drag, the drag when it comes to the economy, we started with the Omicron surge, January, February. Sometime February, we started hearing whispers about aggressive global monetary policy, of course, initiated by the Fed. And then, of course, you have the Russia-Ukraine tension, Russia-Ukraine war, eventually breaking out sometime March. And this essentially brought about higher commodity prices. We have a surprise removal of the SM conglomerate and the FTSE Asia Pacific Index annual rebalancing. And then it all led to surge in bond yields by April. Those are the things that I believe brought the market down. But of course, there are also some things, some developments, somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way, that softened, that somehow softened the landing. Meron ding mga nagsuporta sa ekonomiya ng bansa. Of course, we started the year with vastly improved economic data, as evidenced by the gross domestic product numbers, employment print, and manufacturing PMI. Sometime February, we saw the resurgence of travel and tourism with the removal of facility-based quarantine requirements, with the removal of face shield requirements, with the removal of contact tracing requirements, removal of lots of travel restrictions and travel requirements. So if you're fully vaccinated, kailangan mo lang RT-PCR results. Of course, it has to be negative within X number of hours, and then pwede ka na pumasok sa Pilipinas. So essentially, those help. That development helped, bring tourists into the country. That development helped bring Filipinos, a chance to go back to the Philippines and spend, a few weeks, a few months here with their loved ones after not being able to travel at all over the past couple of weeks. It also helped that the Public Service Act, which was eventually enacted into law, This essentially meant that 100% ownership of foreign ownership of public services in the country. That was sometime March, and then April, we saw strong earnings numbers from a number of index bigwigs. No? So hindi naman puro bad news, of course. May mga dahilan din why the market, why the economy, why we need to celebrate when it comes to economic performance. When it comes to concerns, of course, importante tingnan din natin yung inflation. Mamaya pag-uusapan natin what brought about inflation. Our DBS economist forecasts Philippine inflation to hover somewhere between 3.7 thereabouts in 2022. This is well within BSP's target range of 2 to 4%. Malaki yung range ni BSP, but it could also surprise to the upside because again, grabe yung epekto ng fuel price surge when it comes to the second level, no? Kasi doon lang nag-uumpisa ang lahat eh. Magkakaroon ng increase sa energy, magkakaroon ng increase sa pamasahe, transport, delivery costs, and ultimately sa products and services. Another thing that we need to be concerned about is, of course, yung pent-up demand. No? It may come out stronger than so far assumed, as there is risk of household spending getting out of control. Ito yung revenge spending. People, psychologically speaking, they feel like they've been deprived of a lot of things, a lot of experiences over the past 2+ years. So ngayon na meron silang freedom to do so, meron silang liberty to go to malls, meron silang freedom to go, and travel and spend their vacation. Parang dun napupunta yung household saving. And of course, sustained and elevated fuel prices brought about by the Ukraine-Russia conflict. At ang sabi ko nga kanina, ang effect nito would be second level effect on products and services. Tataas lahat, eventually power, energy, transport, product, services, everything. And unti-unti nating nakikita yon. And if it's any consolation, parang medyo okay pa nga yung inflation print as of last month because it wasn't as bad as other analysts expected it to be. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine affected global economy through 3 channels. No? Kasi iniisip natin, bakit gano'n? Layo natin. I mean, ilang nautical miles away tayo from ground zero from Ukraine. Parang hindi naman natin masyadong trading partners directly ang Ukraine and Russia. Pero some people think, bakit gano'n? Ang laki ng epekto sa atin? If you recall, 1998, it wasn't the Philippine financial crisis. It was the Asian financial crisis, but we were badly affected. 2008, 2009, it wasn't the Philippine crisis because it was a global financial crisis, but we were badly affected. Ganun talaga because we are operating as a global economy. Maraming moving parts at marami tayong mga direct and indirect trading partners. So if you're going to ask me, meron tayong 3 channels na naapektuhan tayo. One is being the fact that there were financial sanctions brought about by US and the European Union. They imposed financial sanctions on Russia. So parang may mga kumpanya na nag-pull out ng negosyo, may mga kumpanya na nagsarado, may mga accessibilities na tinanggal, hininto. So parang may mga payment channels, may mga credit card facilities, may mga payment facilities na hindi mo pwedeng gawin, hindi mo pwedeng gamitin sa Russia. So it's essentially kahit hindi ka parte ng militar ng Russia doing offensive sa Ukraine, you're going to think twice sa pagstay sa Russia because you can't pay your obligations, you can't buy stuff, you can't transfer money, you can't withdraw your money because there's no money circulating. Tapos grabe yung pag-devalue ng currency nila. So you're really going to think twice, and that's essentially what the repercussions of the financial sanctions are pagdating sa Russia. And that's just one of 3. Another thing I'd like to highlight on would be commodity prices. Russia is also a major producer of several base metals. We're talking about aluminum, nickel. Ito yung dahilan kung ba't nagkaroon ng surge in prices, yung mga heavy on nickel mining, na mining stocks in the Philippines over the past several weeks. titanium, palladium, prices of agricultural commodities also were heavily affected because wheat, barley, rapeseed, tumaas ang presyo essentially because of the stoppage, no, sa ekonomiya nila. Taken together, Ukraine and Russia, both countries, no, they account for more than a quarter, more than 25% of the global wheat trade, and they produce 12% of the calories consumed globally. I don't want to talk numbers, I don't want to talk semantics, I don't want to talk foreign, but essentially, importante sila sa pag-produce ng mga what you call this, parang ingredients, so to say, for us to be able to produce, let's say, noodles, for us to be able to produce bread. So importante sila, no? And thirdly, of course, dahil nga sa tension, dahil sa stoppage ng ekonomiya, dahil sa mga closures, supply chain disruptions, nakaka-apekto rin yan. Disruption to supply chains will come from three sources. Of course, it's just me stating the obvious, no? Difficulties affecting land-based routes, restrictions on air links, imbis na pwede kang gumalaw straight line, hindi kailangan mong iwasan yung airspace ng Russia, airspace ng Ukraine. So of course, dahil mataas na nga yung presyo ng fuel, mas mapapamahal ka pa kasi kailangan mong mag-divert ng mga ruta mo, whether you're traveling via land, via sea, and via air. So speaking of sea, nagkakaroon din ng cancellation of sea freight routes from Ukraine. So ang daming epekto at again for the common Filipino na hindi naman talaga nagbibigay ng time at attention dito sa mga bagay na to, talagang iisipin nila parang wala naman talaga dapat epekto yung Russia-Ukraine war na yan. But then again, from an economic standpoint and from a business standpoint, medyo ito yung tatlong major effects nila. Alright? So ngayon, pagdating sa concerns, marami tayong dapat tingnan, pero the closest thing I need you to be wary of would be the new COVID variants. No? Parang yung potentially the emergence of more COVID-19 variants that may vary in terms of a number of things, you know, transmissibility, immutability, and virulence. The longer that we are in this pandemic, officially we still are in this pandemic, the more permanent and deeper the economic scarring will be. Another thing I'd like you to look into, of course, kahit tapos na, meron pa rin mga, kumbaga sa lindol, may mga aftershocks pa rin yan kahit paano. And it's still obvious, especially if you're going to look into your social media feed. No? Election outcome may still be uncertain. I'm not talking about the results, no, but of course yung repercussions nun. Ang maganda dito is we were able to get what the market wants. Simply, kahit ng anong election naman, hindi talaga importante kung sino yung mananalo. Ang importante dyan is the manner by which the winner goes out of the election. No? Importante dyan, the market will always cheer a clear front runner or a winner. Whereas a tight race may raise questions and elevate pre- and post-election jitters. Ngayon, ang tinitingnan na lang dito is yung cabinet. Sino yung magiging economic manager, sino yung magiging members of the cabinet of the presumptive incoming administration. And of course, yung likelihood na magkakaroon ba ng policy changes or magkakaroon ba ng continuation. And from the looks of it, again, if we're going to look at the presumptive president, it looks like magkakaroon ng continuation of the policy from the current administration to the next. Now, when we look into where we are as far as the business cycle goes, I think all signs point to the mid-recovery phase. No? I see the economy currently at the mid-recovery phase, and if things go the way they are, of course, backed by data, by economic indicators, we could be looking to transition to the next phase or the early mid-cycle by the tail end of 2022, or perhaps because of hopefully, Santa Claus rally by December 2022. Latest would be January 2023. Doon tayo magpupunta sa next phase. Again, that's assuming that if things go the way they are, parang wala nang COVID, bagong COVID variant, hindi na mag-escalate yung tension between Russia and Ukraine. We're going to keep on reopening the economy. Hindi na masyadong magiging malala yung increase of fuel prices. So those are the things that are put into, are assumed for us to be able to go to the next level. Now, as we enter 2022, we expect a recovery to continue and become sustainable. Hindi lang importante dito yung recovery, importante dyan is sustainable recovery. Returning to returning the Philippine economy back to the pre-COVID-19 levels in the next 1 to 3 quarters, hopefully as seen here, as pictured here in the graph to your left. Makikita natin parang somehow V-shaped recovery. Nakakatulong yung lifting of lockdown measures, lifting of quarantine protocols, and the reversion to alert level 1 at least for Mega Manila. So laking tulong niya. It's very evident if you're going to look at your GDP levels on your right. It's also good that GDP print keeps on surprising. So maganda siya, surprising on the upside as it cements our call that we are really inching our way to recovery. Now, pagdating sa household, again, this is just in support to what I've been saying at the start of the year, at the beginning of 2022. We're seeing healthy household balance sheets, meaning mas konti yung mga households na nangungutang or kumukonti yung utang nila. They're able to pay off their obligations. And at the same time, tumataas yung savings. Yun yung sinasabi natin kanina. Yung source naman ng revenge spending nila. We have healthy balance sheets, less and less households borrowing, more and more families being able to save. This is seen to be more sustainable in the future because of the improving labor market. Again, the graph to your right. And if anything, parang ang maganda dito is we're nearing pre-pandemic levels. So that means at this point, it's pretty safe to assume that the number of people, not necessarily the exact same people, but the number of people who lost their jobs during the pandemic in one way or another were able to find employment, and numbers are still pointing upwards. So bumababa ang unemployment, tumataas ang employment, lalo na kung titingnan natin galing sa worst numbers the past several years, yung first to second quarter 2020 nagkaroon talaga ng lockdown, nagkaroon ng business closures. We're nearing if not already there, we're nearing pre-pandemic levels as far as the labor market is concerned. Now, pagdating sa capital expenditure, the upcycle is still underway. Again, we're coming from a recovery standpoint. Gross capital formation through construction, intellectual property, durable equipment are all rebounding, again, primarily because of the lifting of mobility restrictions. People are being able to go to work. Walang masyadong problema sa transportation. Of course, when it comes to presyo ng pamasahe, ibang usapan yun. This is supported by the vast improvement measured by the Philippine Manufacturing Index, or PMI, which is now at a 3-year high. All right. Now, there's also ample structural liquidity in the economy, providing more than enough credit and capital to bring growth trends to pre-pandemic levels faster. Yun lang naman yung goal natin muna, is to bring the economy back to pre-pandemic levels. The BSP is managing liquidity, floats, and reserves to the best of its abilities, while rate hikes seem to be inevitable kasi we're taking cue from the Federal Reserve of the Central Bank of America. It's not expected to increase drastically naman. It also brings me confidence that the BSP is indeed managing the fiscal side of things wonderfully, because we have a healthy level of international reserves. All right. I might sound like stating the obvious, but still maganda na makita natin to. We need to highlight that the Philippines' COVID-19 situation has improved significantly. Ano yung mga minimeasure natin dito? What brings us confidence na medyo nalalapit na yung end of the pandemic? Well, number one, cases bumabagsak. vaccination tumataas, fully vaccinated, boosted one time, boosted two times, unti-unti nang nagkakaroon ng rollout ng second booster yung mga local government units. Yung mga mag-expire daw na vaccines, pwedeng ibalik at papalitan ng bago according to the COVAX facility. Quarantine restrictions bumabagsak din, and they have all significantly improved, no? Especially after the early 2022 spike brought about by the Omicron variant surge. And while the DOH warns of a spike in cases over the next 1 to 2 weeks, the first week being now, no, after the elections, because of rallies, election activity-related transmission, there's no need for the public to panic for as long as we stick with the protocol. Test, even if you don't feel like you don't feel anything, for as long as nagkaroon ka ng, umattend ka, for example, ng rally, you came in contact with lots of people na walang social distancing, test, isolate, quarantine, and then test again. For positive, asymptomatic, parang ang protocol ngayon is 3 days of quarantine. For positive symptomatic, I think 5 days, and then you have to retest again. So ganun lang naman, parang unti-unti siyang nagiging parang regular flu. But of course, importante pa rin yung testing because again, technically speaking, officially, we're still under this COVID-19 pandemic. We're also confident that the economic activity will be robust as expected because 2022 is an election year. Election-related spending, revenge spending, travel, tourism, of course, locally, dahil summer, mas maraming tao ang mga nagta-travel, even within the Philippines, no? And back to school and return to office related expenditures. If we're to compare the economy's performance, it's pretty obvious that it produces and earns more during election season. And if we're going to break it down further, you'll see that it comes from both private and public pockets. No? I'm talking about the graph on your left. Households seem to spend more, 4.2 to 5.3, from 4.2 for non-election years. And again, this is me stating the obvious. Government tends to spend more on visible infrastructure projects, especially if the incumbent is running for the election. Imagine non-election years, 1.5% capital formation activities. Election years, 11.7%. So again, that's how things work here in the Philippines. However, pagdating naman sa foreign front, no, pagdating sa outlook ng foreign funds, we argue that there is a case for foreign funds to again increase their exposure in the Philippines, especially now that all we're waiting for is the dust to settle, for cabinet members to be named, and for a smooth transition from the Duterte to a presumptive Marcos administration. Importante na makita natin unti-unting mag-increase yung exposure because foreign investors are still underweight in Philippine equities. Global emerging market funds are still light in terms of exposure to Philippine stocks as reflected in low foreign ownership levels. All right. Now, how do all these translate to the recently held national elections? So tapos tayo sa economy, we now go to the second E, which is elections. First off, let me give you a glimpse of the performances of the PSEI over the past 6 presidents' first 6 months. So we break down muna natin yung first 6 months of their administration as far as PSEI performance or the barometer of the stock market goes. The first 6 months of Cory Aquino, the stock market rallied 98.44%. Again, this is coming from EDSA Revolution, coming from martial law. 1986, February 25, 1986, first 6 months, 98.44%. Diba? Pagkakaisa, may konting Ninoy Aquino magic pa involved. Again, 98.44%. Numbers don't lie. First 6 months of Fidel Ramos, ang goal ni Fidel Ramos, privatize lots of government properties, government agencies, institutions, ibenta sa private sector, ayusin ang relationship between the government and Muslims, NPAs, no? New People's Army, mga terrorist groups. First 6 months, 9.56%. Ang gusto lang naman din niyang gawin is isolve ang problema ng Pilipinas when it comes to energy crisis kasi parating problema ng Pilipinas nung early late 80s to the early 90s yung pagba-brown out hindi tayo attractive sa mga negosyante kasi parating problema ang kuryente. How am I supposed to, make money? How am I supposed to, build cars? How am I supposed to, run a business kung parating nawawalan ng kuryente? So that was his goal. First 6 months of ERAP Estrada, negative 5.51%. But of course, in defense of ERAP, 1998 to 2001 lang siya. His administration was cut short because of a number of political issues. Tapos tinapos ng EDSA 3. But it was also during this time na nagkaroon ng Asian financial crisis, 1998, 1990, 97, 98, 99. No? So negative 5.61%. The first 6 months of GMA, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, I'm talking about 2004 Gloria Macapagal Arroyo kasi ito yung elections, pinag-uusapan natin elections. She was just sworn into power ng May 1, 2001 because she was the vice president back then. But again, consistent with our topic, elections, no? So pag-usapan lang muna natin yung administration niya when she was officially elected as the President of the Philippines. First 6 months, 20.87%. That's June 1 to December 1, 2004, 20.87%. The first 6 months of President Noynoy Aquino, 27.01%. And the first 6 months of Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, negative 8.20%. So hindi pa natin masyadong nakikita yung clear picture nito. Nakikita lang natin dito is the initial reaction of the market, the initial reaction of investors, and perhaps the effect of several other things, no? Be it an economic crisis, a political crisis, or a health crisis. Kay Mr. Duterte, kay President Duterte, hindi pa to COVID pandemic because again, we're just measuring the first 6 months. So ito mga knee-jerk reaction pa lang to. Andoy, ano namang nangyari if we're going to, cover at least the first year? Ito siguro baka tapos na yung honeymoon period, no? Tingnan naman natin yung performance ng PSEI sa first 12 months, first year nila. So after first 6 months, tingnan natin, Cory Aquino, medyo nagsettle ng konti. From 98%, first year niya medyo nag-average down 57%. Still not bad. Fidel Ramos nag-improve from about, 9.56%. It improved about 24.8% over his first 12 months. Joseph Estrada nag-improve from negative 5% to positive 21.04%. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, 27.34% first year. Noynoy Aquino, 32.39% first year. And President Rodrigo Duterte, 5.35% over his first year. So kung makikita natin dito, if there's one thing in common, no? Tapos na yung honeymoon period, napakilala na nila yung administration nila, napakilala na nila, na-assign na nila, na-appoint na nila yung mga cabinet members, economic managers, nakabuelo na. So unti-unti nang nagkakaroon ng confidence, so to say, ang businesses, ang mga local and foreign investors. So makikita natin, at least first year, positive lahat. The first 6 months, ang average ng mga presidente natin, 15%. That's their average over the first 6 months in office. Dito, first year, first 12 months ng mga presidente natin, the previous 6 presidents, the Philippine Stock Exchange Index returned an average of 24%. No? So again, very lucrative pa rin kahit paano, especially for investors like you and me. But then again, maganda rin tingnan natin yung entirety of their stay. Pag-usapan natin yung buong term nila, no? And of course, let's begin with Cory Aquino, 1986 to 1992, a staggering 147% growth from the Philippine Stock Exchange barometer. No? Fidel Ramos, 57.66%. ERAP Estrada, negative 30.96%, again for reasons na nasabi natin kanina, financial crisis, political crisis, EDSA 3 ended his administration. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, we're just going to measure again for consistency 2004 to 2010 kasi minana lang naman niya yung 2001 to 2004 term ni ERAP Estrada. 2004 to 2010 GMA, 115.72%. Noynoy Aquino, 130%, and President Rodrigo Duterte, 10.68%. Again, because perhaps of the COVID-19 pandemic, because of the Russia-Ukraine tension, because of the uncertainties that we all faced from 2020, 2021 to 2022. Now, this is the PSEI. To a certain extent, pwede nating sabihin, this can be influenced by sentiment. This can be influenced by emotions. Again, because pera ng mga tao to, pera ng mga fund managers to, pera ng mga foreign investors to. Tingnan naman natin ngayon yung GDP as a measure of their performance. No? Hindi lang naman stocks. Tingnan muna natin yung GDP. So tingnan natin GDP from GDP, average GDP growth ng mga presidente pagdating sa administrations nila from 1986 up until 2021. For President Cory Aquino, the economy grew by an average of about 3.36%. For President Fidel Ramos, from 1992 to 1998 when he was in power, the economy grew by 3.61% on the average. For Mr. Joseph Estrada, again, despite running the economy, despite leading the Philippines during the height of the financial crisis, Asian financial crisis, he was still able to manage a GDP average of about 3.51%. For the economist, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, ito sama natin 2001 to 2010, 4.71%. For President Noynoy Aquino, 6.26% over his 6-year term from 2010 to 2016. And I'm going to give you two numbers for President Rodrigo Duterte. Pre-pandemic, bago magkaroon ng pandemic 2020, over his first 3 years in office, the economy was performing wonderfully, 6.64%. So parang nagkakaroon ng continuation kasi from GMA 471, Noynoy 626, yung kay Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, kay President Duterte, it's actually going up and up and up and up until COVID happened. So if we're going to measure his performance the economy's performance pre-pandemic, it was doing 664. But if we're going to include COVID-19 into the picture, it goes to 50%. Nabawasan din ng 50% pagdating sa performance, 3.36%, which again is still not bad because it's within the average. Parang pareho lang sila ni Cory Aquino. So this is just again a snapshot of what the economy and what the stock market, how the economy and how the stock market performed during their terms sa Malacanang. Again, to close things up, there's hope. There's really hope. May recovery pa rin tayo na nakikita. It's just that we really need to go through things like this in order for us to, in order for us to reap the fruits of our labor. There's always a rainbow after the storm. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And most importantly, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And if you're going to ask me, historically speaking, if history continues to repeat itself, every major economic crisis, every major political crisis, every major health crisis, they're always followed by a major economic boom. Asian financial crisis, bumagsak, and then we recovered. Global financial crisis, bumagsak, we recovered. COVID-19 pandemic, Russia-Ukraine tension, bumagsak, and hopefully we get to recover. Again, the hope is for history to keep on repeating itself. Ang importante dito is tinitingnan natin yung long-term trajectory. Growth pa rin, yung nakikita natin despite what's happening, despite what we see happening, despite the concerns na sinasabi natin kanina. Ang tinitingnan pa rin natin dito sa long-term trajectory of the stock market. Smart money will always find its way to the market. Regardless of the leader, regardless of the head of state, businesses will always find a way to make money. Businesses will always find a way to produce their products and services. So it's really all a matter of, finding the right mix and taking advantage of opportunities as they come. All right. So pagdating sa equities, we see stocks that can leverage on economic reopening. Right now, as of May 11, the PSEI is down 7.4%. Ang nakita namin dito is, of course, economic reopening winners, blue chip glamour names. We like malls, mall-based outlets, properties, and banks. We like restaurants. We like companies which will benefit from return to office and return to school activities, no? We like health and wellness companies that produce healthy food alternatives, and of course private and public construction beneficiaries. These are our official stock picks and our target prices together with their upside. FB, URC, San Miguel Food and Beverage, URC, and Monte, makikinabang sila because of tourism, bars, parties, return to office, and face-to-face classes. May short-term downtrend caused by supply chain issues, but again, it's okay to pick them up at current levels. Ali is the leader in Philippine residential market. Maganda yung quality of properties nila. We are of the view that management has recognized constructive factors that support the segment. Pagdating sa target take-off nila, 100 billion yung target pero nakaka 60%, more than 60% na sila so far. This is the second largest mall developer in the Philippines next to SM. RRHI, we like RRHI because we can leverage the wallet share shift and the return of mobility. The return of mobility is paramount to, for pent-up demand to flow through. Return to offices, kasi pagdating sa RRHI, parang it serves yung mga malls, yung mga groceries nila. So, syempre, babago ka ng wardrobe, bibili ka ng groceries, bibili ka ng pambaon. You no longer have time to cook food at home kasi nasa office ka na or pupunta na sa school yung mga anak sa next school year. So, ito yung mga maikinabang doon. RHI, Robinsons Malls, Robinsons Groceries. Social gatherings, of course, may kinabang din sa mga ganito kasi mga take-out, chips, whatnot. What else? Pharmacy, meron din sila. SM, I'm talking about SM, the conglomerate. They have large exposure across sectors or we see the recovery to be robust. Retail, real estate, and banks, BDO in particular. SM is currently trading at a very steep discount of 825 pesos per share. The target price is 1267. That's a 53.58% upside as of close May 11. Sabi nga natin kanina, no, pagdating sa SM, nagkaroon tayo ng surprise sa FTSE rebalancing activities. Pero at the same time, with SM's target market less affected by price pressures given the short-term impact of FTSE rebalancing, we view the price levels as an opportunity for people, investors like you and me, to accumulate the counter. No? So if anything, it's actually a buying opportunity. Security Bank, similar to BPI and BDO because of higher margins, acceleration of working capital and capex upcycle activities. Converge, ito, just today, it was added to the Morgan Stanley Credit Index. So malaking bagay yan. Maraming mga institutional funds and mga brokers ang bibiling yan para makarebalance sila consistent with MSCI. SMPH, ito yung, of course, from the Conglo, ito yung mall and condos o property. Yung channel check ng research team namin indicate that the impact of Omicron was lesser than expected. Mobility is quickly reverting to pre-Omicron levels since early February. So ang bilis. Omicron natin, mga January lang siya nag-peak. Tapos February, medyo bumalik na daw yung foot traffic pagdating sa mga malls nila. These give us confidence that the Filipino mall-going culture is far from being undone. We forecast SMPH to deliver 58.2 billion in operating income and net earnings as rental reprieve to normalize faster than expected while tenant sales to exceed pre-COVID levels. Of course, sabi nga natin nakakatulong yung mobility, yung improved mobility to allow faster construction ng mga malls, ng mga renovation nila, ng mga bagong tenants nila, ng mga condos nila, higher residential pre-sales, and steady office rental revenue stream. What else? Jollibee, we see improving store economics for Jollibee Foods Corporation. Again, when you buy Jollibee, also buy its subsidiaries, no? Greenwich, Chowking, Mang Inasal, Red Ribbon, Tim Ho Wan, Thought24, Burger King. So ang daming Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. We see improved store margins, Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf restructuring, as well as the business transformation program embarked in 2020 lays out a clear path to profitability because of their asset sale. Kanina, parang it was announced, yung profits ni Jollibee jumped to 1,400% first quarter of 2022 alone. So again, those are very attractive numbers, and it's just going to keep on, making GFC an attractive stock to buy, especially for the retail market. All right, so RLC, Robinson's Land, again, buoyed by the Robinson's Land REIT, RCR, and sabi nga natin, BDO and TPI. So these are our stock picks. These are our REITs Landscape. You have there the IPO price, their performance since IPO. This is as of May 11, close of May 11, 2022. We included here the 52-week highs price as of 2 days ago, our target price, their upside, and of course their full year 2022 dividend yield. So again, REITs make a very good investment outlet, especially for those who can't afford to monitor the market regularly, because by law they are required to distribute 90% of their income to us investors by way of dividends. And how regular their dividend payments are, as regular as every quarter. So every 3 months, if you're investing in REITs, expect to receive something from your REIT portfolio. So parang instead of expecting monthly rental payments sa pagpapatayo ng apartment, ito medyo madidili lang ng konti every 3 months. So instead of you stressing yourselves out sa pagbili ng condo, paghanap ng tenant, paghanap ng magre-rent sa apartment, ito wala ka ng problema. Bibili ka lang ng REIT, ang hawak mo malls, ang hawak mo office space, condos, BPOs, townships. Tapos meron pa si C-REIT, no, na medyo wala pa tayong target price. Si C-REIT parang ang kinikater naman niya is solar farms, no? So yun yung selling point niya. But then again, when we talk about the REITs landscape, this is everything you need to know about REITs, everything you need to know about how we see REITs at comparatively yung dividend yields nila. So that's it. I do hope I was able to make sense of it all. Economy, elections, and equities. So ang tip ko lang dito is as soon as dahil nga meron tayong uncertainties pa, I suggest you keep 25% of your portfolio in cash to buy the dips. Habang naghihintay tayo ng dip, right now, ang buying levels natin, 6,462. You might want to keep your cash in money market mutual funds para hindi sayang yung yields. No? Give higher allocation on large cap stocks, reopening winners, property and banking. Sinabi natin kung bakit, sinabi natin individually why we like them, plus their target prices. And of course, dividend play. Hindi lang naman REITs ang merong dividend play. You have TEL, PLDT, you have Meralco, Jollibee, nagbibigay din ng dividends. But again, we talk about consistency. By law, REITs are the way to go. All right. So again, please do consider investing. When you talk about investing, you don't need that much for you to start investing. And the good thing about that is you're not just investing for yourself, you're also investing for your future, for your family's future, and ultimately, parang nakita natin how things come to play, economy, election, politics, and the stock market. Directly or indirectly, you're also helping the Philippines' recovery and nation-building efforts. So you might want to start investing now. All right. So there you go. Make the most out of your money. Grow your money by through several channels. When you deposit your money, you earn interest income. When you invest in bonds, papautang ka sa gobyerno or expanding private companies, you get capital appreciation and coupon payments. You get capital appreciation and dividends from funds, ETFs, stocks, and of course REITs. So pagdating lang sa REITs, guaranteed yan, 90% of their income gets distributed back to us. Sa investments, may bumabalik, pero sa love, minsan wala. So invest wisely and lend it responsibly. And here I am, just reminding you to be practical, be realistic. You can create something out of nothing. You don't expect to, you don't expect to receive money if you don't invest money now. You don't expect to get lots of money if you don't know how to budget money, if you don't know how to save money. You can create something out of nothing. You only get multiple streams of income if you create multiple sources of income, and time is of the essence. So, importante ang oras when it comes to growing your money. And lastly, you don't need to be the best to start. Hindi pa din magaling ka agad. That's okay. When you talk about basketball, dumadaan tayo sa time na rookie tayo. We're trying to learn the ropes. Hindi tayo starting time agad. Coming off the bench, hindi tayo magaling agad. Again, that's okay. Experience is very important, and time is very important for us to be able to gain experience. You don't need to be the best to start, but you need to start and work your way for you to become the best. And as far as financial literacy goes, if you keep on spending and spending and spending money, you're going to keep on losing and losing and losing money. But if you see to it that you budget your money properly, you save your money properly, and you invest your money and assets, you perfectly understand, no matter how small the amount is, for as long as you do that consistently, it's just going to get you one step closer, 1 month closer, 1 week closer, 1 day closer, and closer to reaching your life goals. So this has been Andoy Beltran from Let's Invest PH, from First Metro Securities, thanking you for listening to Economy, Elections, and Equities Explained. So I do hope to see you in our next webisode. And again, please do like and subscribe to First Metro Sec's YouTube channel, and of course to Let's Invest PH on YouTube. So there you have it, and I do hope to catch you in our next webisode. Bye-bye.